Hi everyone, welcome back. In this video we're going to be working with Stencil and it's going to be really fun. I'm going to show you how you can create a stencil with your Cricut machine and how you can get it cut out and make some really beautiful work with it. So in this particular project we are going to be making a little Easter bunny. This is just a little wooden Easter bunny that I got at Hobby Lobby, and I thought it would be fun to put a little stencil design on this bunny that I have been looking at, and I think it's going to come together really beautifully. So for this project you're going to need a few things. To start off, I did go ahead and paint this just to speed up the process. So it does come in a bare wood. This was in the Easter section in the Easter crafts. And what I did was I just applied a couple coats of this folk art, and it's called White Adirondack. I applied a couple coats with a foam brush, and then I let it dry, and then I used my husband's sander to distress it. So I went ahead and sped up that process for you just so that we could get going with the stencil this morning, but we'll be doing more painting. So the other color we're going to apply today is this other, this is the DecoArt Americana, and this is, I believe the color is called Refreshing. The code is ADC13, but it's a really pretty bright teal color. Well, almost actually a sea foam color, but we'll see how it looks. I think it's going to be really pretty, not only for spring, but I think it'll just pop really pretty with this white with the design that I'm going to do. So you'll need a couple colors of paint. You're also going to need a foam brush. I really like these little tiny foam brushes. I get them in a pack off Amazon, so I'll link them below. And like I've said in a previous little tutorial, they're nice because not only are they small, but you have so many of them and they're so affordable that you can wash them out. But if you're having a day where you're just in a rush, they're easy just to toss in the trash. You're going to need a measuring tape as well, and then you're going to need some type of scraping tool. I've been calling this a scraping tool, but I guess it's actually called a squeegee, but I'm in love with this. It really works well. Some scissors and a weeding tool, and then you're going to need some transfer tape. So everything that I am going to be using today is going to be linked in the description box below, as well as another few things that I'm sure will sneak onto the craft table. So always utilize that, and if you have any questions, be sure that you ask and I will be happy to answer. Also, make sure you are all subscribed because we are going really quickly into spring. Everything is blooming around my house. It's really exciting. We're spending a lot of time outdoors now, so it's really resonating on my craft table because the warmer it gets, the more springy my crafts become. So make sure you guys are all subscribed, and also I'll link my Easter crafts playlist up right at the top. That way, if you are getting ready for Easter, you have some inspiration to get you started. All right, so let's go ahead and get this measured. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be applying a stencil. It'll make more sense when I show you my design. I'm going to be applying a stencil over the entire bunny. So what I'm going to do is I want to measure my entire width by my entire length. So the farthest from the farthest is going to be the little tail from the nose, and so that is running at 7.5. And then I'm going to obviously do top to bottom, and that is running at 9.5. So I'm going to make my stencil a 10 by 10 because that will just make sure everything is all covered. And I will show you how you can also cut out stencil on this pretty stencil film. If I didn't introduce this, this is the Oramask 813 masking film, and this is going to act as our stencil today. So it's really fun. I will show you how you load it into your machine and how you'll get it cut, and then I'll show you how we'll actually apply the stencil. All right, let's sneak into design space, and I'm going to show you the little design I'm going to be using for this, and then we're going to get to cutting and painting. Okay, so now that we are in Cricut Design Space, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the fourth button down on the left. It's the image icon, so I'll go ahead and click that. And then in the search box, I'm going to type in Flower Grid Overlay. And what I'll do is I will select this first one that pops up. This is what I'm going to be using today. So now I'm just going to go ahead and hit Insert Images. And now I want to size it to that 10 by 10 that I measured so that it will fit over my entire bunny. So what I'm going to do is I can either hit this double arrow and just drag in and out to my desired size, but I'm just going to go over up here to the size bar and I'm just going to click 10 by 10. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I can go ahead and hit make it. Before that, I'm gonna make sure that my maker is selected, and it is. So once I hit make it, it's going to place that design right on my mat. And now what I can do is I can just hit continue, and now it's going to locate my maker via Bluetooth. And now we can go ahead and select the material we're using. For this cut, I'm going to be selecting Stencil vinyl. It's in the vinyl category in case you're looking for it. Or you can just hit browse all materials and you can search for Stencil vinyl up here to help it pop up. So I'll go ahead and click that. And now what we're going to do is I'm gonna keep it on default pressure. We're gonna load our mat with our Stencil vinyl and we are going to get cutting. Okay, so now I'm just going to lay down my Stencil vinyl on my mat. I'm going to be using the light grip blue mat for this. It's honestly my favorite mat to use. I tend to use it quite a bit. So let me go ahead and just lay this down nice. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just use my brayer tool, and I'm just going to roll that down to make sure it's all flat and on in every little corner. Make sure it's all laid down really well. I really like this brayer tool. I tend to use it a lot just because it's actually really fun to use, but it's also very effective in getting everything really, really flat and even. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and load this into the maker, and so that double arrow button is flashing indicating that it's time to load. So I'll go ahead and click that, and then we're just going to wait for this Cricut button to flash. It's just a little Cricut icon, and once it does, it'll be ready to cut. Okay, so now this is actually going to take a little bit of time. I'll go ahead and time it for you guys to make sure you guys are aware of how long it'll cut. But it does take a little bit of time to cut out, so this is a great chance to go grab a cup of coffee or just take a little rest and then, or get all of your materials ready to go, because it'll take just a bit and then we will get to painting. Okay, so it's already done cutting. It did take 9 minutes to cut, so you do have a little bit of time to do other things while this cuts, or you can sit and watch it cut. It's kind of fun too. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and unload it, and then I'm going to go ahead and start weeding it. So this will be really, really fun. I am going to caution you that this stencil material, it does bubble really, really easily, so I am not going to remove it quite yet from the mat. Don't want to pull it from the mat because it will bubble really quickly, and I just want to make sure that I move it as minimal as possible to just make sure everything stays intact. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it right here, and I'm going to go ahead and use my little squeegee tool and just go ahead and press everything really quick to make sure everything is where it needs to be, and then I'll go ahead and just start weeding out what I'm not using. So what I'm going to do is I am going to leave the outside. Yes, let me leave the outside because it'll probably help it just transfer a little bit better. So I'm just going to go through and start weeding out the middle pieces. And this is going to get really fun. My husband bought me this Oramask for Christmas. So it has taken me a long time to have a chance to use it. So I'm really excited to use it on this project. It'll be really, really, really fun. And I thought this would be a really fun idea for this particular project because if you have seen my previous videos, I missed a line. If you've seen my previous videos, I really like the idea of putting like designs on animals, if that makes sense, on like little animal shapes and stuff. I think it's just a really fun way to just make a fun design because first and foremost, animal like shapes, they have really, distinct shapes, so it's really hard to kind of like put text on them. You can, but I just think that it's a really fun way to fill the space that is, a non-traditional like square or circle, if that makes sense. But I just think it's really, really fun. So if you guys are also curious on how to create a stencil that isn't, like, you know, traditionally a stencil design in Design Space, make sure you guys subscribe, because I'm going to be creating a tutorial on how you can create like a custom stencil, and how you would go ahead and use some slicing in Design Space to get that all in a stencil format and ready to cut. So that is going to be really, really cool too. Okay, so I'm just weeding. This is going to be a very, very easy project to weed. You're just going through and taking all the middles out, and it's going to be really pretty. I think it's going to turn out really nice. Okay, just finishing up this last little row, and that setting of stencil vinyl worked like a dream at default pressure. So it's just weeding perfectly. The cut is just perfect. And I actually changed my mind. I am going to just go ahead and take this border off as well, because it is sturdy enough around the edges that it will just be just fine. Okay, so that's our final look. Isn't that pretty? I think that's really, really fun. And I think it's going to be really fun with paint too. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to put our transfer tape on it. So now this is how we are going to transfer the stencil from our mat to the bunny to get ready to be applied and painted. So if you'll notice, my masking transfer tape is not quite big enough, but you can do this in sections, so it works really, really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and just lay down my first layer, just like that, and then I'll just cut right back here. And this is really, really nice transfer tape to work with. So, whoops, I got it a little shy, but that's okay, because you guys will see it's not going to be covering, or it's going to cover more than the surface area of the bunny. So that's okay that I got a little shy on there. Okay, and then I'm just going to go to the second part and lay down. Okay, perfect. And this is actually, you know, you can rip it. It's actually very, very easy to rip. I try my best to have clean lines, and sometimes I do a better job than others. Kind of depends on how patient I am. Much like anything else, though. Okay, so we're all done with that. So now the next thing we're going to do is just take this scraper or squeegee tool and just make sure that everything starts, all that stencil vinyl starts laying down and connecting to that masking transfer tape. Because now we're going to start that transfer from the backing, this white backing. We're going to take it off and transfer it over to the bunny to act as our stencil. Now there's two ways that you could weed this. So you could, like I did, weed out the little diamond pieces, leaving this little flower piece, or you could weed out the big flower piece in one long piece. So it's up to you. Why I did it this way was because if you weed out the flowers and leave the diamonds on the sheet, you have a lot of really small pieces that you're trying to paint around. And so it's possible, but it just adds a little bit of complexity to it. So this is probably the easier way if you're just getting started. And that way you're left with a stencil that is all one big piece, and you're just going to take it off in one piece. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. So anyway, you can either choose to weed the flower design off, or you can weed like I did and weed just the little tiny middles out. Just be aware, if you do the flower design, all those little middle pieces are just going to be everywhere. So just cautioning, but giving you the options as well. Okay, so now that that's on, what I'm going to do is I'm just, actually, you know what? It's just going to pull up really nice. I'm just going to slowly start peeling. There we go. I flipped it over and peeled it this way because it's a little bit more forgiving to the vinyl to peel away the matte from the vinyl than to rip the vinyl from the mat. It just helps to minimize any type of tearing or bubbles. And look at that. That transfer was perfect. So now you're left with the backing, and you can just go ahead and peel this off of your mat, and then you can toss it. We are all done with that. So it did an amazing transfer. I'm really impressed with that. Okay, so now we're done with this, and we can get started. Pretty. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put our bunny down. Okay, and now we're just going to go ahead and lay down our design over the bunny. Okay, get him a little straight. And notice how the, let's see here, I think that's going to be really pretty. Okay, notice how once you lay down, you can kind of see the outline in there. So the stencil is going to go over the bunny. So yes, there's a lot of like wasted vinyl on the sides, but it's kind of the best way to do this in order to get like the vinyl all reaching to the edges. So I'm just going through with my finger first to, you know, lay everything down. If you guys want to do this another way to save materials, then definitely do that. I just felt like this was going to be the easiest for me to get a successful project, but however you guys want to do it is perfectly fine. Okay, so now we're just getting all of this laid down. Who else is getting excited at this point? I'm getting really excited to see how this turns out. Okay. So now what we can do is we are just going to start cutting around the bunny to remove a little bit of that excess stencil that we don't need. There we go. And this is just going to help because now we're going to peel that transfer tape off and then get to painting. I'm really excited to see this color in action because I've actually just opened it this morning. I've had it for a really long time. I want to say, well, not a really long time, but since the fall when I was doing some crafts and I had picked it up. I'm not sure if it was on sale or what, but I picked it up in hopes of a future project, and that future project just happened to be today. So I was really thankful I had it. Okay, so just removing a little bit of that excess so it's not so overwhelming. And now we're just going to find a place, I think right up here is going to be perfect to start peeling away. And it's going to lay down really, really well on the wood. You're just going to have to kind of encourage those areas that haven't been laid down just to kind of peel off. So that looks really nice. Okay. It's looking great. And then remember we have this first piece. Perfect. And again, you can let go of, you know, those surrounding areas. So if they're coming off, just let them go. That's perfectly fine. Okay. So you just got to get one little area started and then it goes really well. Okay, there we go. All right. Okay, so now the stencil is laid over the bunny. And again, we have some pieces on the side. Just leave them. It's totally fine. We're just going to leave that right there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that squeegee tool again and just really make sure, carefully though, because I don't want to scrape up the stencil, but I just want to make sure one more time that everything is laid down nice. That way the paint doesn't sneak under the stencil. Okay. It's looking beautiful. Okay. All right, let's start painting. This is going to be super, super fun. Okay, so I'm just going to take off. This is such a pretty color for spring. I'm super excited. Ooh, nice. Okay. All right. So now I'm just going to start taking a little at a time, and I'm just going to start brushing. Oh my goodness, it's going to be gorgeous. I'm just going to start brushing. Oh, if you guys will notice, I did only paint the top of this bunny, and I left the sides and the back a bare wood color. I just thought it kind of looked really dimensional that way. So feel free to do it however you would like. But I really liked the look of just having those sides just regular and bare wood. And also, to be honest, when I started painting, I felt like the insides were going to be a nightmare because my initial idea was to obviously paint everything, and then if you do want to do paint the entire bunny and even the insides, I'm talking about like the sides here and the edges, I would opt for spray paint. And there is a chalk, I believe I saw a chalk spray paint somewhere, and I'm tempted to say Target. I'm sure all craft stores have it, but if you do want to just, paint a little design that's a little bit tougher in shape, yeah, spray paint would be an awesome option. Okay, so I'm just lightly going through here and painting. It's looking really good. I probably will do a couple coats. So it's looking really pretty. I also do like that, farmhouse kind of distressed look, so I'm not going for perfection on here. Brush strokes for me are, not going to matter, and they are almost preferred because it gives kind of a little distressed look. So go ahead and do as much or as little in terms of perfection that you would like, but for me, I'm kind of going for more of just a kind of whitewashy, almost just light look. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and let this dry for a couple minutes. I'll be sure to tell you how long I let that dry for, and then I will go ahead and place the second coat on. But so far, you guys, it's looking really, really nice. Okay, I just waited a few minutes, so not too terribly long. I don't want this to dry a ton because I really want to make sure that I am able to peel off this stencil vinyl while it's still wet. I don't want it to be totally dry when I peel it, just because it will, first of all, peel easier, and it will peel cleaner lines with that paint, because once the paint's dry, it can kind of start to, well, just kind of, not crackle, that's not really the right word, but it can harden so much that I think that it doesn't kind of produce as clean lines as it does when it's wet, so I'll say it that way. I think it's just preferred. So again, make sure you're always doing the method that you think is best, but for me, I think a wet peel is going to be a little better. Okay, so that second coat is going on really well. I think I'm going to stop there and not add any more, because again, I do want that a little bit more of weathered look to it. It's looking really, really nice. Okay. So let me know if you guys are doing Easter crafts. What do you guys do? Are you doing spring crafts, Easter crafts? What's everybody have on their own craft table lately? I kind of feel like I have just a tad bit of both, but I will tell you, I was in Design Space this morning while this stencil was cutting, and there are so many fun things for spring. So my weekend is going to be definitely running to the craft store to get some blanks for some projects that I am now really inspired to do. So it'll be really fun. Maybe I'll create a spring playlist as well, just to get you guys all inspired with me. Okay, so I am I'm thinking that's really, really good. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and close this up. I'm really impressed with this color, and I'm excited to see this peel. Okay, so now this is going to get a tad messy, so just so you know, if you have some rubber gloves, I would recommend that. I usually use rubber gloves when I paint just to kind of protect. Oh, guys, it's going to be cute. I just got a sneak peek. Okay, so try to make sure when you're peeling that, and this is really, it's really fragile, so if it comes off in pieces, sometimes it might be easier just to like allow it to rip, and that's just fine. You can also keep your weeding tool handy because it will help you nudge along some areas if you need to. So see how this just kind of rips? That's totally fine. I'm actually going to grab my leftover pieces because these also have paint on them. So I'm just going to grab that backing sheet to that film and just lay that there. That way the paint doesn't get all over everywhere. Okay. So it looks like it, I think because of the design, it's just going to come off in little chunks too. So, ooh, that is okay. We will get it all up. Slowly peeling. It's looking really pretty. So just make sure if you do get stencil on your, or I'm sorry, paint on your fingers, that you are being aware that, and don't touch like your actual wood, because you will just get it all ruined. Ah, see, there's paint like gonna go everywhere. So a little bit more of a messy project than is usually at the craft table. Okay. So this is where bringing your little weeding tool in just to grab those little pieces and being careful not to, you know, puncture or scratch the wood. This is one of those projects that might be a little slow, but will sure be worth it in the end. Okay, 2 coats. Now that I'm seeing the finished product, 2 coats is definitely perfect. Okay. So the reason it's peeling off in little pieces is just because of the design of the stencil. So don't worry, this is going to be completely normal. So just be patient and use that little weeding tool to your advantage and just keep going. Okay, so still just taking these little pieces of stencil off, and I'm just about nearing the end, and it's pretty, it's getting pretty dry at this point, and I did notice that it does get a little bit harder to take off as it gets more dry and dry. So I would definitely stay with my original advice of make sure you peel, you know, when it's wet, because it's still coming off, but it's just taking a little bit more nudging. So I'm finding that I'm using my weeding tool a lot. There's a couple places where I accidentally have scratched the wood, so I can either go back with some white paint, always keep your original paint. I can either go back with that and, you know, touch up those little areas. What I think I'm going to do is I am going to, after this is all dry, so I'm probably going to let this dry for the rest of the day, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take my husband's electric sander and I'm going to run a light sand over it one more time, because I think it'll also make the mint color, or that teal seafoam color, I think it will make it just a little bit more distressed and you know, go with the look that I'm going for. So that will also hopefully helps with some of the little marks that I created. But I'm just going to make sure I got all the little spots. But the lines are super clean, you guys. It looks really, really really nice. I love how it turned out, but I want to make sure I got all my little pieces. Looks like I did. So again, keep all your pieces, you know, contained, because my goodness, these will get all over your house in a hurry, especially if like they catch on a sock or something. At least that's what I find at my house. So this is the finished project. So that, taking the stencil off, I will be very honest, it took me about 10 minutes. So that will be definitely where your patience is going to come into play for this project. So make sure you get some music on, or you turn on your favorite show in the background, because that will make the process go a little bit faster. But for me, I think it was so worth it, because I think the final project is so fun. I hope you guys like it as much as I do. I think that's a really fun way to add design all over a shape that is not, you know, usually easy to apply designs to, because it's so non-traditional. So how fun. Again, this little shape was from Hobby Lobby, this little bunny guy. So he was in the Easter section, and I'll make sure that I link all the things below. So we are full forward into spring and Easter, so make sure you guys are all subscribed to see what's coming next. This was super fun to create with you. I'm glad you guys were able to come along with me. I'm very impressed with the stencil, the Oramask. So I'm super happy. This was actually my first time trying to paint with it. So I'm very impressed. I give it 3 thumbs up. Okay, guys. So if you guys enjoyed this, make sure you give it a thumbs up, and I would love to have you subscribe if you guys want to see what's coming to the channel next. All right. Have a wonderful Easter.